Thank you, Sheila. Well, it's a debate that we are familiar with here in the UK, but in New Zealand, the group campaigning for the change of cannabis laws has taken provocative steps. They've set up a club where members openly smoke and, until recently, even sold the drug. Today, they went one step further by delivering plants to media outlets and politicians. Well, the club was set up by Dakta Green. We'll hear from him in a minute. And Ross Bell is the executive director of the New Zealand Drug Foundation. And let's start with Ross Bell. First of all, Ross, what exactly is the New Zealand Drug Foundation?
Well, the New Zealand Drug Foundation is a charitable trust, quite similar to some other organisations that you have in the UK. But we're trying to promote sensible and adult debates around drug policy and the best way to reduce the harms that drugs do to people.
And what is the current legal situation in New Zealand regarding cannabis?
Well, we have a pretty similar law like the UK. We have a Misuse of Drugs Act, and drugs are classified either A, B or C. And cannabis at the moment sits in a Class C drug, which means that it's illegal to sell, to manufacture, to grow, to use. And of course, there are different penalties associated with the classification. So, cannabis is not legal in New Zealand, but it's a drug. Despite its legal status, it's a drug that half the country have tried, and so we certainly would suggest that that very simple approach through the law isn't having the effect that it's designed to have.
Right, and does a club approach have any legal validity?
Well, no. The club is illegal, and as you said in your intro, up until recently, they were even selling cannabis on site, which is clearly in breach of the law. It appears, however, that the police have turned a blind eye to the club up till this point.
Well, let's see if we can join Dakta Green. Dakta, it's illegal. Why are you doing it?
After you've spent a little time in jail for growing a little weed, it tends to focus your mind to whether or not that's a fair and proper response from authorities to our citizens. And I've decided, along with thousands, in fact millions around the world, that cannabis should be legally available for adults. And so, with friends and supporters, we opened a club.
And is it true that the police are turning a blind eye to your activities?
I'm not sure that they're turning a blind eye. There has been a considerable amount of interest by the police, but not directly to the place. They've been doing some background checks and talking to neighbours. They had a chat to our landlord. In fact, they put it to our landlord that he should terminate our lease as we were clearly breaking the law. The landlord's response to that was that he'd been down here the day before and saw nothing illegal going on, and so he couldn't help them. So the police are taking an interest. They've got a very fat file on me, apparently. They've been looking at all our YouTube movies. In fact, I understand that the police are upset about one YouTube movie about us hotboxing our bus. We had 84 people on our bus inside our Dactory, and we closed all the doors and windows, and everybody sparked one up. We made a nice little movie for it, and that's up on YouTube. The police don't like that too much.
I see. But again, that was just an attempt, was it, to get some publicity?
Well, it's twofold. One, it was a hell of a lot of fun for our members. And secondly, yes, of course, to attract attention to this evil that is going around the world. Cannabis prohibition is not something that members of Parliament should be using to lock fellow citizens up. It's just totally wrong.
But have you got any indication that anything's changing? I mean, you're surely heading for jail again after a certain period.
I actually do think that things are changing. You know, for the last 18 months, a group of us have been campaigning around our country, driving our 1969 Bedford bus that's all beautifully decorated in a bright green and yellow with a large sign down the side saying "Legalise Cannabis." And we've driven that all over the country. In March of last year, we departed on a 12-month tour of the complete country. We did nearly 13,000 kilometres, and we're only a small country, so that got us from the very top to the very bottom and from east to west. And we stopped in virtually every town and city in the country and announced publicly, by driving around each town with a microphone and loudspeakers on our roof, that we were going to hold a protest at 4:20 in their town, that we were, that as part of our civil disobedience, we would consume cannabis at that public protest, and we invited the locals to come along and join us by bringing their buds. We went further and we said, if you don't have buds, bring your money. And what happened?
And you would give them some, would you?
All over the country. All over the country, the police ignored us. They respected our right to protest. They respected our right to seek to change this evil law. And so we've had effectively a dream run. But I've got to say, there have been occasions when the police have told the media that the reason they haven't dealt with us is to stop us having a public platform or publicity. Okay, that's fine. So if we keep doing it, that means the police are not going to do anything about it because they don't want to give us publicity. We'll find another way of doing publicity. We opened this club to bring together people who want to be serious about effecting change. Now, we will bring people together in this club. We will enjoy our social time together, but we're also deadly serious in that we are going to change this law. Until a Member of Parliament can stand up and say, the reason why we lock you up is A, B, C, D, in simple, plain English that we can understand, until they can do that, then they're on the back foot. You see, cannabis will be legal because the Members of Parliament, our politicians, cannot sustain a lie.
All right, I have heard you make your point, Dr. Green. I'd just like to go back to Ross Bell at the New Zealand Drug Foundation. Have you heard anything there that you'd like to comment on, perhaps?
Well, certainly, I think Dakta's approach is a very provocative tactic, and I think you see it in the UK and you see it in New Zealand, that it's very difficult for politicians to engage sensibly on drug policy issues, and in fact, any politician who begins to talk about law reform gets very quickly sidelined. Look, I'm not convinced that Dakta's approach is going to get politicians on their side. It might be true that a lot of the country has smoked cannabis, but I don't think that's going to translate into widespread public support, and certainly politicians in my country won't change the law if they don't think there's any public support for it, and we don't see that in New Zealand at the moment. We do have an opportunity, though. Our drug law, which is 34 years old, is being reviewed by a very robust legal body, and so there might be opportunities where people can highlight the inadequacies of the current law, and there are some examples close by. Tried different approaches to cannabis, and they seem to be quite successful. So I think we should encourage a grown-up debate, and I think there are some solutions that we can find around cannabis, but I'm not convinced that some of these provocative tactics are going to have much influence on politicians.
Let's leave it there, and thank you very much both for giving us some insight into the cannabis debate as it stands in New Zealand. It's 5:15.
Across the UK,
this is 5 Live.
Up all night with Rod Sharp.